something happens at a store, or somebody's being treated unfairly, usually we step in, and it's that. And I hope that we impress that upon the brothers and sisters after us, that there's that expectation that we tend to be leaders. You know, in the fire service, as firefighters, we have to take initiative every single day. And we work as a team, yet every role we do is an individual role. And the greater good, right? We do our job as an individual on the fire ground. That all translates to the big picture as a team at the end, that the fire goes out and we all go home safely. Mm-hmm. And so when you perform as an individual, not everybody's watching over your shoulder. And you hope that you have the right demeanor and care and want to work your ass off to get that job done, whether somebody's watching or not. And I think that's a real important thing for me in the fire service, is just impressing that upon the junior guys. Me as a senior guy in my firehouse, trying to impress upon, it's not even hooking the ceiling correctly or stretching the line correctly. It's also, how do you conduct yourself? How do you talk to people? When we go on a activated fire alarm or a carbon monoxide alarm, how do you treat the homeowners? You know, are you abrupt and rude? Are you courteous and polite? I know for myself, and I try, and Sebi can vouch for it, I try to make jokes with the people to try to get them just to loosen up and understand that, you know, hey, you know, you have fun. Like, you know, and we're people too, and we have, and I like to think that the firefighters in the firehouse have big hearts for everybody. We're the center of the community a lot of times, and so on. So I think impressing that upon the junior guys, that it's not just how well you can stretch that line or how quick you can throw that ladder, but it's also the other stuff as a person, that we have to make sure that we're good people and bring good values and you know, and bring forth that right type of mentality, if you will, because I think that goes a long way, and that also translates into how you operate at the firehouse.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of hope, it's almost like raising kids.
Yeah.
You know?
Without a doubt.
And you just hope that, you know, at some point, they're going to be making this decision by themselves.
Right.
And you hope they do the right thing.
Right.
You know, and, you know, and it's not just, you know, you're not just watching your own kids, you're watching other guys. You know, it could be a mutual aid fire. I remember one time a mutual aid fire, and we're getting all picked up and we're ready to start pulling sealants. Hold up, guys. And I took the pictures off the wall. Yeah, they weren't paintings that you could buy at Walmart. They were pictures of
family pictures, yeah.
Stuck them in a drawer. Mm-hmm. And then we had at it. I like to, you know, you hope that, you know, maybe the next time they went to a fire and they saw pictures on a wall before they started to pull the ceilings or knock the, you know, maybe they took those 2 seconds.
That's right.
Yeah.
And long after you leave, that family's going to be cleaning up. Oh, you know, I had all those pictures, and they're going to be cleaning up, and all of a sudden, those pictures are going to be there.
Right.
And they're in good shape.
Right.
You know, and it's just anything. You know, like we had a fire a couple months ago. They got 2 dogs out of a basement of this, you know, apartment building, and it was basement fire. The dogs, they gave them oxygen. You know, they're just dogs. Even if the person doesn't really think of them like a family member, they're still a living creature. Mm-hmm. These guys, goddamn, you know, they're giving them oxygen. The dogs both survived. I had, you know, I was there. I was called in, you know, off duty, so I had my work car, but I had a couple of leashes in there, you know, just leashes. So they didn't have any leashes or anything. We put a couple leashes on these dogs, gave them back to the homeowner on a leash, you know. Oh, you know, that's so great. Whoever would have thought to carry leashes like that, you know? And this guy was just, he was so happy that these guys took the time to bring his dogs up, make sure they got a little oxygen, you know, they were doing okay, and put leashes on him. He could walk them away, you know, no problem. And it's just, it was so insignificant, you know, in the grand scheme of things. You know, it's fire in this apartment building, people are losing their, you know, their possessions and stuff, but they took the time to do that.
Yep.
You know, just going in and finding car keys for somebody or medicine. You know, it's just the lieutenant or the captain will say, come on, we got to go in and find this stuff. And they'll go in. And how easy is it to just say, Chief, we couldn't find nothing? No, they will stay in there until they find what they're looking for, bring it out to the person.
And this has a lot
You know?
to do with the lost art of salvage, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, but
you know, it's that other side of the job.
But what is this? The salvage, you know? I mean, possessions can be replaced, but there's just some things just have more value than money.
Correct.
You know, and that's the stuff that you try to help these people out. You do go that extra little bit. You know,
Right.
it's not just throwing a tarp. You're actually getting
With-
something for
without
this
doubt.
person that they can't replace.
Right.
You know.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I'll never forget taking as a volunteer. I was in a fire room and I swept underneath the bed. And when I came up underneath the bed, I had moved some boxes or something, and I didn't think about it. But I was on the floor on my belly. When I came up, I actually saw just wedding albums. So yeah, I checked with my partner if he was all right. You know, I said, "Did you find anything?" He said, "No." And everybody was reported out, but we were still searching anyway.
Yeah.
And I remember I took the wedding albums and I kind of tucked them up underneath my coat and walked out towards the living room where the fire wasn't, and I ended up putting those wedding albums there. And we come outside later, family's out there, they're upset about the fire and everything else, and I went up to the wife and said, "Listen, I know it's not much, but underneath the bed, in the bedroom was the wedding albums, and when I was searching, I grabbed them, as many as I could, and I walked them out towards the
Yeah.
living room, and she was so thankful for that, because those were the only photos that she had of her wedding. And, you know, I mean, it was where the negatives were in the back and everything else. So even if they were a little smoke stained or whatever, like she could get the negatives and get new photos. But like she thought for sure it was lost. And thank God we did, because the guys ended up going in there and just douching the hell out of it with water, you know,
Oh, yeah.
to overhaul, like hydraulically. It was, you know, what they were doing that day because it was so hot. But it, yeah.
Yeah, those few seconds, you know, mean so much to the family. That's, you know.
Now, for Newburgh, I remember in the academy, because I went to the academy with Timmy and Mike Lyman there, and I remember when the Newburgh brought the engine down and the lieutenant on the engine was like squared away, and we had a bunch of different departments come into the Westchester Academy, and you could kind of tell who was who, and the Newburgh guys were like the real deal. Like they didn't yell at anybody. They had this like soft spoken, but you will listen to me when I tell you that this is what's going to happen. And like how, because that seems to keep going on in your department, from talking, whether if I every now and then see Tim out or something like that, or I see Mike, usually unfortunately it's always at funerals, but like it seems like that still happens with those guys. And then obviously I know Nieder, so like he's in, and it seems like it's happening with him too. Like how, is that just a recipe that seems to be working in the city, in the department, or is it passed down, or is it just?
I think it's passed down without us even knowing it. Honestly, I mean, every place has got its. They've all got their screamers. They've all got their guy that says absolutely nothing, and then, but you if you like me now, you know, I'm not as much hands on. A lot of times I go to these fire calls, or I'll sit and watch, you know, I'll stand there and watch the guys do training in the morning, checking the rigs. And it just seems like, and it doesn't matter who it is. You'll always see a senior guy showing a new guy, and he's not treating him like he's an idiot. He's just showing him how to do things. And that senior guy is probably the next guy that's going to be on the promotional list. And, you know, he becomes a company officer. He talks to his guys. You know, I think that's all instilled in us, and we do the same thing, and we kind of push it down the line without even realizing we're doing it. I mean, that, thanks for the compliment, and they are, you know, we've got guys that they are, you know, they will yell and holler and scream when things aren't going right, and then there's guys that are just, doesn't matter what's going wrong, they're still just quiet as they can be, but when it comes to dealing with each other, you know, the guy could be a total dope, and they'll still keep showing him patiently, you know, like he is the next fire chief. You know, they're just,
Yeah.
they'll take care of him. You know, you don't want to. Nobody ever wants to see anybody stumble and fail.
No.
You know, and so yeah, I don't know. I know what you're talking about. But we don't intentionally go out and do it. It's just, I think that's just the way we were all taught.
Yeah.
Maybe we taught the guys behind us, and now they're teaching the guys behind them. I mean,
It's just good
you know.
leadership is what it is.
Yeah.
What it comes down to and what it boils down to is leadership and just to kind of interject here and throw my 2 cents into it, I studied my entire master's degree on leadership and especially in the fire service and emergency management and everything like that. And one of the books that I referenced the whole time I was doing it was First In, Last Out by John Salka.
John Salka. Yeah.
So, and I still read it to this day. And especially when, I'm bored and tired of my night shifts, I'll pull it out and go back and read a couple of things. But ultimately what it comes down to, and what you were saying before, it's like raising a family. It's like raising your kids. And that's kind of what John Salka talks about a lot in the book. It's following, those kind of traditions and those values and bringing up the leaders below you and senior guys to kind of have those same values and have that understanding to where they need to be like, all right, you know what, be patient with the guys, understand where they're coming from, and just try. And that's obviously like just kind of stepping back and listening to what you're telling me. It's like you guys don't even realize what you're doing, but it's just because you guys have been passed down from the start of it, and obviously every department's going to have their good leaders or bad leaders. Like you said, you're going to have your screamers, you're going to have your guys that are more passive, but ultimately what it's going to come down to is communication and proper leadership. And what you're doing there just by, having the guys show this is how you do it, whether it's good relationships with the public, whether it's taking photos down off the walls, whether it's, showing the guy who you have had to show already 1,000 times how to do something, you're still doing it.
And we've got
And
those.
it's
We've
all
got
positive
those
stuff.
guys.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
And they will still. They'll maybe they pick on him a little bit more in between.
Yeah.
During dinner or whatever, they'll ride the
They
guy.
bust your chops.
But they will still show him
Exactly.
without treating him like an idiot. They'll still show him. And
That's part of the brotherhood, too.
and some of these guys that you think would never get it, and those same guys that you show them over and over and over again, all of a sudden
Yeah. Something
you
sticks.
see him showing a new guy,
Yeah.
very patient, but the guy he's showing is just like him. Just it's not clicking,
Right.
and he is just showing them. And it is good stuff,
What in Newburgh, and for yourself in your career, what's your definition of what the senior guy is? Because a lot of people just point to the seniority list, but that's not always the case.
It's not that. No, I mean, when I was in Group 2, I had a couple guys that they could retire any day, and they weren't the senior guys. There was guys with less years on that this would be the guy that, before the lieutenant would yell at you, he'd say, "Let me show you something. All right, just do it this way, or do this. Trust me, just do it." Or the lieutenant would, come in ready to rip you apart, and the senior guy would step up. "Look, I already showed him what he did wrong. We'll continue to work on it." And it isn't always the guy that's senior on the seniority list. It's not always that guy, but it just kind of rises, and you can just somebody establishes himself somehow. This is who the guys go to with their problem when they don't quite understand something. This is the guy they go to. When the lieutenant is beyond pissed off, that's the guy he goes into, and he calms them down. How do you define that?
Because I had Craig as my Elderkin as my senior guy who just retired and everything else, and people were like, because Craig would be a handful, times he certainly didn't hold back his opinion, which is always refreshing, especially at 3 a.m. But there were times where I know as a new lieutenant, I would be angry, and I was like stepping away, and he would just kind of see me and said, "I'm taking care of it." And it was like, all right, awesome. And I didn't have to worry about what was going on because he was going to take care of it. So it's always, and he did the station chores. There was always this thing, he wanted to clean the firehouse. So nobody was really going to jump in front of him on that one and take we called the garbage can his walker. But, he took pride in the station and making sure that, the garbage just had to be done. You didn't have to tell him and all that stuff. So.
I think too, sorry, jumping back in, but I think too, the senior man he's the heart and soul, right? He's the guy that gets it.
Yep.
He's the guy that carries more weight than the officer does.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's more important in the culture of the firehouse than any chief or lieutenant or captain, and people would disagree with me, But I think the senior guy gets the heartbeat of the way things need to be. And they understand the culture of their firehouse or their company, right? Paid, career, volunteer, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, they understand how things are supposed to be. There's a right, there's a wrong, there's a line drawn somewhere. And when unless it's a real serious or egregious offense, it should never get to the officer.
No.
It should always get to the senior man. The senior man should be able to nip that in the bud before it even has to go any higher, unless it's of a more serious offense. But the senior man carries so much weight, and I think part of what I'm seeing in the fire industry, and it's not just I see it in my own firehouse too, and I'm a senior guy, is I look at, I remember the senior guys when I was upcoming, probie, and then a younger guy got the line a couple times. They start giving you more and more responsibility as you come up the line. The senior men allowed you to grow in that firehouse. They're the ones that either told you got to slow down and learn your craft better, or they're the ones that knew how far they could push you and make you that better fireman. I'm a better fireman for all the brothers that have come before me that have taught me the rights and wrongs, the do's and don'ts, and how far we can push ourselves on the fire ground, what we can do, what we can't do, how we treat people, how we don't treat people, and all that, right? But I think what's happening is a senior man's only as good as the time he can dedicate to the craft. And I think what we're finding in the fire industry and in this business that we all love is that the senior men, they don't seem to have the time they used to have, or they're not dedicating the time they used to have to the craft, which then allows the younger school of firefighters, whether probie or the junior guy in the jump seat that, has been on the knob one or two times, but still needs some pretty decent guidance as to the rights and wrongs. I think the senior men, as much as we like to point the finger and say that the newer guys are entitled and they don't listen, I think the senior men need to start putting in some more time. And I find that myself. I'm a 24-year guy in a house with 2 engines and a utility, and I'm one of the senior guys there. And a lot of the other senior guys have aged out, and they don't even come around as often as they should anymore. And I think that's part of the problem. I think what happens is it's not just life, but it's everything. And so that's that unique part of the culture of the fire service right now that I think needs some attention. I think that the senior guys need to look at the bigger picture, and I look at the senior guys, to me, the guys that have 30 years, 40, they might not be driving the rig anymore or jumping out for every call, but they still need to maintain a presence in the firehouse.
Yeah.
So that there's that seniority pecking order, there's that, the back row guys at the meeting that have had their time in the company. And when those guys start to fade away and disappear, you start to lose that unofficial pecking order in the firehouse. And when those senior guys start to disappear or start to not spend as much time as they used to in the firehouse, like they don't go there every day after work anymore, so they're always there, or, this is in the volunteer sector, right? But, I still think as senior men, we still need to hold some type of position for ourselves that we need to be there enough to be able to make a difference in these younger kids' careers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's lacking. And so I think, and I try to hold myself to that when that pager goes off as a volunteer fireman at 2 o'clock in the morning for a carbon monoxide alarm, 24 years in, I should be able to roll over. The young guy should be able to take that run.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what does that tell those guys?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I roll over as the 24-year man, the 30-year man's definitely rolling over. The 22-year man, he's probably going to roll over. Then what's going to say, why can we get on the 6-year man then? And say, how come you didn't go to that call? I said, well, you didn't go. I don't, but I put my time in. Yeah, but who gives a shit you put your time in? I understand that and I respect it, but they have to be led by example. And when we don't lead by example anymore, I think that's where we start to get into the problems. And we talk about firehouses that have great culture. I think a lot of the firehouses that have a good grounding of culture is because of the steps that are laid before them, and they still have a large contingent of senior men that are a big part of that department still.
And, I think when you're a new guy, and you're learning all these people, you're learning
is Rob Ridley from National Fire Radio. Thanks for tuning in. Catch up with us on social media. We got
SoundCloud, National Fire Radio, YouTube, National Fire Radio, Instagram, National Fire Radio,
last
and
but not least,
Facebook, National Fire Radio.
Radio.
Guys, check us out. Take care. Be safe.
See you later.